Fantasy football. When should you stash a handcuff player? In the world of fantasy football, knowing when to stash a handcuff player can be a game changer. A handcuff player is typically a backup running back who steps in if the starter gets injured or misses time. Stashing this backup on your roster can provide a safety net for your team. But when is the right time to do it? First, think about your league format and roster size. In deeper leagues with larger rosters, it makes sense to stash a handcuff. You have enough bench spots to hold a backup without giving up other key players. In shallower leagues with limited bench spots, it may not be wise to dedicate a roster spot to a handcuff unless that player is tied to an elite starter. Next, evaluate the clarity of the handcuff situation. If the backup is clearly the next man up, stashing that player becomes more valuable. For instance, if a team has a backup who has proven they can handle a full workload, keeping that player on your roster is a smart move. On the other hand, if the backup situation is unclear or if the team uses a committee approach, it may not be worth the risk to stash that player. Also, consider the value and draft cost of the handcuff. Some backups, like Tony Pollard or Kareem Hunt, have their own value and can be drafted as reliable options. True handcuffs are usually later-round picks who gain value only if the starter is injured. Stashing these players is a good idea if the starter has a history of injuries or is likely to miss games. So when should you stash a handcuff? If you have an elite starting running back whose backup is clearly defined, it is time to stash that player. Also, if your league format allows you to hold a backup without sacrificing other key players, that is a good sign. If the starter has a history of injuries or there is a high risk of missing games, stashing the backup makes sense. On the flip side, avoid stashing handcuffs when the backup situation is unclear or involves a committee. In shallow leagues, where limited bench spots are available, upside players are often more valuable than insurance. If the starter is durable and unlikely to miss time, the handcuff may not offer much value. Stashing a handcuff player is a strategic choice that balances the risk of losing your starter against the cost of using a roster spot for insurance. It works best when you have enough roster flexibility, the backup is clearly the next in line, and the starter has injury concerns. Otherwise, focusing on players with immediate upside might be a better strategy.